Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Happening Wednesdays.
What's happening?
On Whatever You Want Music Radio, this is Most. And today we are here with somebody who I'm going to call a spectacular talent. I've been doing my research, man. It's got a lot of things going on, had a lot of things going on for a long time, but I'm not going to tell his story. We got the brother, the talented, Grammy nominated, and the list goes on, Shamello Durant.
Peace to you, Most. How's everything, man?
I'm good, man. Now, let me start from the beginning. Ain't any relation to Kevin Durant?
We're all black cousins and brothers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
so somewhere in history, our families intersected and connected.
Yeah, you know how I go.
But me and him just haven't found a connection yet.
That's right, not yet. But it's soon to happen. Hey, man, I appreciate you being here. You know, as I mentioned, to you when we were offline, we do this interview to try to get the gist of what's going on with people in the industry and the things they do and enlighten people, and it's exciting for people. So we start with the preliminary. We want to know where you're from.
Hempstead, Long Island. I was born in Queens, Jamaica, but I'm raised in Hempstead, so I represent Hempstead as my home. And Long Island is a very hip-hop rich turf to be from, so I was exposed to some really exciting things early on in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hempstead, Long Island in general, certainly has pumped out its talent. Now I'm talking like game-changing talent. Now you don't need to go through the list, but it's a respectable one for sure. So let me actually, I gotta ask, I've seen, your resume and the length of time. Tell the people how long you've been involved and how you got started.
Well, I can, by the grace of God, I got about 30 years in the game, and I started as an MC. Actually, on the back of my shirt, your shirt here, it says Michael Tears Forever. That was the first crew that I used to spit with. Yeah. So part of my new swag, I had to give props to my my old crew, the Three Miketeers, respect Sly and A-Rab. And, we kind of learned this music journey together. We would spit in high school and, we became kind of local heroes. But okay. Beyond high school, I had the bug and I didn't want to give it up. So even in college, I went to school to be a veterinarian. So I was taking a lot of biology courses and science courses and math courses. But in those classes, I found myself writing more rhymes and essays. So I was just like, so it was kind of a magnetic attraction for me to get into entertainment, hip hop. I wanted to be a part of that culture. It just drew me. And once I got a chance to get exposed to places like Latin Quarter and Union Square and go to see Wild Style on 42nd Street when that came out, I was raised at a time where those things were just kind of budding. So I watched it, from early in its inception. And then as I got older, I got a chance to meet some of these people that were creating this energy. One of my good friends, Raheem from the Furious Five, and I remember going to watch them in Long Island at the Roosevelt Roller Rink, and Cowboy was still alive, and Grandmaster Flash was doing amazing things. He did his adventures on the Wheels of Steel, and I was amazed as a kid, and I've been stuck ever since. And now I'm in my 50s, and it's just as fresh as it was back then in my head.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring back up that rap talent, man, because I heard some things, so I'm gonna have to bring that back up in a second. But what I want to talk about first, your resume is impressive. Let me just start with the hit project that was done, that people still love. They still, when the song come on, the dance floor gets crowded. I'm talking about the Poison album, Belle Biv DeVoe. You had your hands all over that joint. Talk about that to us.
Funny thing is, that was actually my first real record ever. I had done a couple of projects that really didn't do anything before that. And that was about circa 89, 90 that we did that project. And what happened was in my neighborhood, I was working in the studio with a good friend of mine, Omari Shabazz. And he identified me I went to high school with him. So he knew that I was an MC. And after high school, he was like, hey, I got a studio, come down, do your demos. And maybe I'll put you on my independent label. I was like, cool. I didn't know what any of it meant. I just knew that I wanted to put my voice on a tape.
Right.
And in the process of that, you know, he was an R&B guy. So his sensibility for hip hop, he wasn't 100% sure if his ear was in tune with what the people of the day were listening to. So he brought in 3 guys to kind of like A&R me, to say, you know, hey, you like this guy? Because they were like really submersed in culture. Those guys happened to be Busta Rhymes, Charlie Brown, and Dingo D.
Wow.
I didn't know them at the time.
Wow.
And we you know, so when they came in the room, they were like, yo, so let's hear what you got. You know, at first, the funny part of the story is they kind of came to audition me for my guy, and they blew me up because the week before that I had gotten booed at a talent show. My tape was, my cassette was flipped on the other side. It was a terrible show, admittedly. And those guys happened to be in the audience. So on this, what I considered my big groundbreaking interview, Brown or Buster says, yo, we know you from somewhere. I'm saying it like that because I think it was Buster. And I was like, nah, I never met your brothers before. He said, nah, didn't you get down last week at the Act Theater? I was like, oh, yeah. And I knew it was a terrible show. And I was like, oh, man, they really trying to blow me up. So I was like, yeah, that was me. And yes, I did get booed. And I'm kind of looking side-eyed and looking at my guy like, how do I back myself out of this corner? I said, this is very true. It was a bad night. I said, but I got skills that pay the bills. And I'll show any of y'all at any time exactly what I can do. You know, we were a little bit young, so my conversation was a little bit more colloquial at that time.
Right.
I might have said, y'all bust y'all's ass though.
Right.
But you know, so at that point, you're doing some music, and we all started sparring. And you know, I admit I came out of there with some scrapes and some bruises, but with a profound respect for them, and they had a profound respect for me at that point. And we've all been best friends ever since that day. So apparently, because of lack of judges, I would have to say that I did pretty good that day. But fast forward, we're talking about Belle Biv DeVoe. That's how I got in the building. That's how I was allowed to be in that building. But fortunately, upstairs in that studio, Public Enemy had a office space. So I would see them in the halls of this building every day. So I started to have at least an amicable relationship with them, a hi and bye. And finally, they would invite me into their studio, let me see what they were doing. The producers for the Bomb Squad, Eric Sadler, Hank Shockley, Keith Shockley, Chuck and Flav became really cool with me. And they felt comfortable. I was in the room, in the building, and I was working on my demos feverishly, so they knew my work ethic was unstoppable. And then finally, you know, the Bomb Squad got asked to produce this Belle Biv DeVoe project. It was a new project. New Edition broke up. 3 of them splintered off. We've been asked and commissioned to do the music. We need somebody to do the lyrics. Can anybody do it? I said, I can do it. They were like, no, we need like a real songwriter. It's like, I can do it. So they paired me up with a songwriter named Ronnie Hooks. And we went to the studio, met the guys, Belle, Biv, and DeVoe. And immediately there was an affinity there. They loved what I was writing, and subsequently, I wrote 3 songs for their first album. I wrote a record called Thought It Was Me, Ain't Nothing Changed, and Let Me Know Something. Record sold about 6 million records at that time, and my life has never been the same ever since that day. Now, that doesn't mean that everything has been gravy ever since that day. It's just never been the same.
And we see them plaques back there, man. You know, I'm looking at them listening on the wall.
It was worthwhile. They allowed me to get a little bit of hardware on those walls. So I was very, very pleased with the relationship that I created with them. And to this day, you know, they're gentlemen, and, you know, they're guys that I highly respect. And the funny thing is that, you know, their posters, their New Edition posters were on my sister's wall growing up. And she was in love. I can't tell you which one she was in love with because she'll kill me. But, you know, she was in love with these guys, and to meet them and meet these guys and have the posters come off the wall and them become real people was a really special, cathartic experience for me, especially as a young budding MC. But that kind of shifted my focus from being the solo artist Shamello D to being Shamello D, the writer for the stars. So then I followed that lane. And that's one thing I learned, that, you know, when you have a passion, it puts you on a trajectory. But don't be opposed to grabbing fruit along the way as you go on that trajectory, because, you know, you have a specific script that you write for yourself, but don't be afraid to veer from that script. So I wound up writing and producing and learning how to produce from that process. And since then, I've made hundreds of records, and many of them have been very successful. So, you know, and I still to this day have never really come out with my own solo album. You know,
Wow.
I've always been a writer, you know, and I still keep my skills up to par that, you know, because I produce records, I want to make sure that, you know, the artists, especially in hip hop, when an artist comes in the studio with me, I'm not asking him to be better than me, but he better be as good, coachable, or willing to learn some new skills, because I'm going to put him to the test, because I'm a real MC. You know, I take it very serious, whether I've been on record or not. I have to be confident in my own skills, and I consider myself one of the greatest.
I know that's right, brother. I know that's right. Yeah, I'm looking at it, man. You know, and your resume, you know, stuff you worked on. You talk about Bell Biv DeVoe, you know, and then people you worked with like Busta Rhymes, as you mentioned. I also saw, you know, you did some work with P.D. Pablo, Missy Elliott, Destiny's Child, the MOBB.
Yes,
Long Island, you know, in Queens. Yeah.
Another funny thing about that is Mobb Deep actually, they landed in that studio as well. So a lot of people came through this particular building. It was called 510 South Franklin. The building still exists. None of the studios are in there anymore. But it was something about the oil, the soil, and the water out there that drew everybody to this particular building. So Prodigy's grandmother lived around the corner. So when they did their Juvenile Hell album, a lot of that was, especially some of the pre-production, was developed in that building, you know. And I saw many artists come through that building, underground, overground, actors, actresses. So, you know, I just happened to be, and this place is 5 blocks from my mom's house. So I didn't even have to go far to experience and witness great things, great people, and be mentored by the best. I mean, Ice Cube, when he came to town, he spent his time doing America's Most Wanted. All his pre-production was done in that building. And I'm sitting there, you know, they were like, hey, we need somebody to pick Ice Cube from the airport. You want to pick Ice Cube up from the airport, Mello? I was like, what? Heck yeah, y'all paying me for that? I'll do that for free. You know, so it was these kind of things that just, you know, it was the right time, the right place, the right work ethic, you know, and I'm thankful that I was there to receive those blessings for sure.
Man, that's something that a lot of people, you know, people dream about, especially artists, you know, to be in that kind of environment and have access to those kind of people. You know, I had heard that Prodigy stayed with his grandmother in Long Island.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
That's how I met him.
Yeah, and that was one of those people I was thinking about when I say, you know, you had some talent, obviously, you know, Rakim and, you know, and all that. You know, you talk about the talent coming out of Long Island. It's been exceptional. So now let's talk about the one that people may or may not know about. Probably one of the biggest records. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's funny. I was watching an interview with Busta the other day, the one with Fat Joe, when he was talking about the joint, you know, and you're the producer behind Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See. Come on.
This is very true. Myself, my partner Buddha, and my partner Epitome, this plaque right here.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I tell you, and I'm not going to lie to you, man. I did not expect it to be a classic that had this kind of timeless experience in music culture. But I graciously accept it. But I will not be the one to tell you that I was the prophet to say that this is going to be the biggest record in history, because I had been doing records like that already, and nobody was getting them apparently. You know?
Yeah, right.
But I realized, you know, a genius and an architect like Busta, coupled with what I do musically, just really was a match made in heaven. And that record, it talked for itself. And what Busta did on it was timeless. From what I hear and from what I believe, you know, what we did musically on it was timeless. And it's kind of proven the test of time. And it was one of the best things that has kept the lifeblood in my career to this day. And that record was done 20 years ago.
It's definitely timeless. You know, I remember when the record like first hit the scene, and, you know, just the movement on the dance floor, man. And then it just stuck around. It didn't matter. You could turn that record on right now. You're going to see everybody start to move and go to the dance floor.
It's amazing.
So what now, who was the person, who was the genius that told Busta, you know, you're going to be relaxed on this one?
Well, the thing is, I wasn't there for that conversation, but I have heard, and Busta did come back and say that, you know, Puffy kind of coached him on that idea.
He did say Diddy, that's right.
You know, and you know, when he first heard the track, I mean, literally, honestly, was jumping off the walls. I was working at the time. I had gone back to work because I had spent all my Belle Biv DeVoe money. So, so I was young. I had a great time and no regrets. And you know, that day, we didn't have. I don't think we had cell phones, but we had those answering machines. And Buster's on the answering machine, like, "Yo, you gotta come now. Come to the studio, yo. I need that." You know, and I was like, "Okay." My partner Buddha, who actually produced the record with me, was also working with me, and that was going to be his first record. I had done a few records already before that, so I wasn't as ready to go to the studio because I needed the money from that shift at work. I need that now bread, you know, honestly. But you know, I eventually made it to the studio. Buddha took off his bow tie. We work in the restaurant. He was like, "I'm out of here, bro. I'm going to the studio." You know, so. He actually made it to the studio before I did. I showed up, and you know, Buster let that song rotate for days, just playing every day. And then finally one day he was like, "I got it." And then he went in the booth and said, "Hit you with no delay." And so what you saying, yo? In that voice, in that tone, and it was magical. And it was like none of us in the room had ever heard, and everybody in the room was flipping, you know. So it was. You know, I have to give props to his genius, props to my partners, Buddha and Epitome, for even backing me up on, because like I said, that was Buddha's first record. Me and Epitome, we came up at the studio in 510 kind of simultaneously. So we have been, you know, working with the Bomb Squad, doing other projects, Belle Biv DeVoe and Young Black Teenagers and some other stuff.
I remember
so,
that.
So when that record came around, Buddha was like, "I want in." You know, and but the thing, the genius of Buddha is that he's a technical wizard. He sold his Jeep Wrangler for a computer, and at that time in the 90s, that was unheard of. Early 90s, you sold your car to get a computer. I don't get it, you know, because I'm not as technical. You know, I hear things. I go on feel. I go on energy. And Buddha was like, "Nah, I go on science." You know, I needed that. I needed that science, you know, because he made that drum machine sing. And, you know, once we all kind of collaborated on the ideas of where we wanted to head with the track, you know, together in tandem, we were very pleased with what we came up with.
Well, that was something, man. That was definitely a game-changing, career-changing record.
Yes.
That sent Buster into the stratosphere right there.
Changed his and my career at that point.
Absolutely, man. So shifting gears.
I did have to leave that restaurant.
So shifting gears a little bit. You're also an author, man.
Yes.
Put out a book, right? From ghetto to greater. Yeah.
This is my magnum opus right here. I'm very excited about, you know, because I consider myself, you know, some people are historians. Mm-hmm. I am a hip hop mystorian. Because I have a full handle on my story. So I got a chance to tell my story. In relation to hip hop, it's a manifesto of what it takes to survive internally while you're going through hardship. Not necessarily in music or anything. I use music as my backdrop because that's what I know. That's my story. Mm-hmm. But it's really, you know, interchangeable with the lives of any of us. Because we all have success and we all have pitfalls. It's what we do in between, and me specifically, my relationship to God, and also my acknowledgement of my craft and my gifts, and using those to help to further ideals that are beyond me. You know, as far as other people, as far as caring about fellow man, caring about family and friends. And, you know, I touched on all of these things, but hip hop was the backdrop, and the whole record, since I never got a chance to put out my own album, is basically my album on paper because I spit every single line in the book. It's all in poetry, but it tells a story, you know. So it's not just a book of poems. Roses are red, violets are blue. You love me and I love you. Mm-hmm. It's more of a conversation with me and the pages. Because it was my therapy, you know, it helped me through hard times to release these things that were in my head and to actually bear and become fully naked in front of myself and say, okay, let's put all these things down. Now, the challenge was, do I really want people to know all of these things about me? And I realized that actually helped me, because it helped me to be bold. And, you know, I don't subscribe to cowardice. And I feel like, you know, if you are not willing to share those pieces, some of it has to do with cowardice. And, you know, I stand behind my successes, and I stand behind my failures, because my failures, which I don't consider the failures, are just learning lessons and building blocks. And even in the book, one of my quotes is, there's no such thing as failure. It's all delayed success. Which was why, you know, we were very steadfast and earnest about getting what we wanted, how we had to get it, but in tandem with God's purpose at the same time. And we doing hip hop. We weren't doing gospel, but God was still involved in everything that we accomplished and everything that we do and everything that we continue to do.
Yeah, there's many facets to your talent, man. You know, this is why I knew this would be an interview that would be interesting to people. You know, I mean, you know, you have so many people like yourself who do great work, you know, and they're really lighting the fire and setting the plateau for other artists when they are, you know, consummate artists themselves, you know, and that, you know, brings me, you know, to this point, you know, unlike other people, you still have a day job, but you have an interesting day job.
Yeah, this is true.
What's your day job? What's your day job?
Well, I'm a production manager, you know, and I production manage film and television. You know, the thing is, one thing I realized when I went to the restaurant, it was completely left field from where I was headed mentally and spiritually as far as entertainment. So then once out of the 90s, you know, my demand wasn't as popular as a producer. So I segued into film and television, which is kind of a cousin to music anyway, and necessary for music. So I've been a production manager, one for a show called Comic Book Men, which is Kevin Smith's show, his baby, about his comic book store and his friends who run his comic book store in Red Bank, New Jersey. We were on AMC. That show doesn't exist anymore, but the gentlemen from the show, they are still iconic in their realm in the comic book world, and they have their own podcast, Tell 'em Steve Dave, which is a very highly visible podcast itself. And then from there, I went on to do Real Housewives of Potomac. I've done Love and Hip Hop, the last season of Love and Hip Hop New York. And, you know, production management, basically, because we spend so much time wanting, you know, especially young urban artists, we just want to be in front of the camera. We want the world to see us, and we want to be a big mega star. Not realizing, and this is what I try to, you know, name my company is Ghetto to Greater Mentertainment, because I want people to realize that there's a lot of opportunities, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera. There's people that are moving things around, and there's people who are doing the lights. There's people who are shooting. There's people who are directing those shooters. There's people who are, myself, I'm the production manager, so I have to oversee all of these movements and make sure that everybody not only is able to get to work, has the resources to get to work, that are being nourished and fed and hydrated at work, but also that they get paid for their work. So, you know, these are all responsibilities that have to be assumed. There's publicity. There's so many different facets, you know, and I was fascinated with this field. So I came in at the bottom level, and I learned all of these different aspects, and I met a great cast of people who not only enlightened me and showed me different facets of this part of entertainment, but also have become my friends and my network. And you know, that's another part of all of this is your network of people and the relationships that you keep, and not burning these bridges just because these people do not become useful to you today. Because I have relationships that span 30 years. And some of the usefulness may go dormant for many years. But because these are genuine relationships, genuine friendships, whenever I need anything, whenever they need anything from me, it's always easily accessible, because we aren't friends because of what we do. We're friends because of how we do.
That's phenomenal, man. Yeah. You know, so now, my dear brother, we're going to have to go back to this MC thing.
Oh, that's interesting. me get a glass of water on that.
Yeah, take that drink, man, because you need to bless us real quick, man. Let's, let them know what they don't know if they don't know.
So now, as I got older, I didn't because I didn't come out with a record when I was, in my 20s, 30s, even my 40s. Mm-hmm. What I did start to get into was spoken word. It became fascinating to me because I would see these people, and I just seemed like they were able to touch on more topics, and plus it wasn't as popularized. So they were talking about niche topics because a lot of the artists were staying on the same topic. Let's shake that ass. Let's talk about, let's talk about getting this money. Let's talk about all these things. And as I became older and as I created my mentortainment, I wanted to be very specific about the messages and what I was feeding to people, because also part of what I do, I work with other nonprofit organizations, and throughout holidays, we try to feed the people who are less fortunate and clothe them and toy drives and stuff like that. So we're always participating in those types of events. I'm working with the Kareem D. Sapp Foundation right now as we speak. And we're getting ready to do a toy coat drive for the winter. But on top of that, I have always had to nurture my craft and be very specific about what I said. So I take hip hop very seriously. I it's my baby, and I kind of liken it to if you ever seen the movie Taken. Liam Neeson, his daughter was kidnapped, and he talked to the kidnappers, and they were letting him know that she's alive, but he was like, you made a mistake by taking my daughter, because I have a very particular set of skills that's going to be a problem for you. If I don't get her back. And I feel the same way about my hip hop. I take it very serious. So I don't know who you are, and I don't even know what you want. But if you're looking for me to dance some more on a dance floor with the fanciest moves ever seen at the dance off, I'm talking dance maneuvers never seen before by humans in a dance hall. I mean, kick flips so quick that it can rip your pants off, windmills and splits, gymnastics, theatrics, backflips with no hand, y'all. Even for the highest ransom, understand, y'all, that's one thing that I'm not the man for. Or if you're looking for money or a handout, or if you got your hand out for more money for me to hand out, that's funny, because I ain't got nothing but love for you, money. And that's why I'm grinning at you like Winnie the Pooh, honey. But better still, with or without money, dance skills, or even a record deal, what I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills that make it quite clear that I'm a living nightmare when a mic is near. Skills that I have acquired over a quite long career. And I don't have to ride on a horse through town to announce to y'all that I'm here like Paul Revere. I'm here! But here's a little story I got to tell about one bad brother who was broke as hell, but he was dope as well. And he learned to write and recite songs that right wrongs, and he hoped that they sell. And wherever he go to play, he come correct, and he would catch wreck for real. And he prayed. He prayed for a record deal. He waited for his next paycheck to pay for his next great meal. He would spit sick, grammatical, acrobatical lyrics that defied the laws of gravity, nature, and society. And he had a variety of styles that excited me. And most, if you haven't guessed already who that guy might be, shh, quietly. That guy was me. But I was still broke. Actually, I worked in a factory where I sported khaki jeans and steel toes, but I needed a raise because I've been living unhappily off of Cheetos and Frito-Lays, and it feels like I haven't even eaten in days. And I acknowledged the scholars who I went to college with who said, how you going to make some dollars with this conscious biz? Who's going to listen? And since you ain't even got a pot to piss in, where has this nonsense got you? You ain't Frank Sinatra. You're more like a freaking phantom of a ghetto-ass opera. And as a matter of fact, didn't you get an Army ROTC scholarship? And don't you know it's hard to find jobs? And you got a job that you don't even make dollars with. Because I was still broke. They said I would get a better chance if I would talk about and how I let that gun blast since I didn't want to come to class. To me, that wasn't it, bro. But I was still broke. But Here is one thing that I've mastered, though. I've mastered the flow, whether fast or slow. Though slow, the tempo can go from slow to medium. Then is when I send that slow flow from medium to speedy. Then that's when I spit it acidic, and I hope critics get it. And if they don't get it, forget it. I still live in it. If they do get it, terrific. I'm with it. Give me the debit. Better yet, give me the credit. No limit. And remember this: you can't mimic this lyricist with gimmicks, kids. Because actually, what grows and flows from your soul is limitless with benefits. See, I was exposed to the pros who showed me the basics of how to compose poetry and prose in the basement. I sold my first few flows to Belle Biv DeVoe. Then my career started to grow like a rose from the pavement. I felt like I had the ancestral soul of those griots who were kidnapped and sold and who rode in the basements of the slave ships. And the revelations from this Genesis are the genesis of these revelations. See, I learned to burn every mic in sight. And every night, if we wasn't on the mic or trying to write, we'd be out at some type of nightclub with the dim light bulb, networking with people just like us, or with people who wanted to be like us, or with people who we wanted to like us. Right. I mean, half of them was faker than a faux ficus. So I earned every type of stripe when it comes to hype, bruh. But I was still broke. That's when I met Busta Rhymes just in time. See, I would jump on those sets with the LONS to bust my rhymes, and I was still broke. But 9 months after that Poison album dropped, the mailman dropped a royal check inside the mailbox, and I was broke no more. I finally got paid for my pen, but not yet for my vocal cords. See, every day we're evolving to be the best version of we that we can be, whether it's, I don't know, superhuman ability or human humility. We're accruing our superpowers, and even if we don't know what to do with ours, my superpower was to leap over nonsense with a conscience, and in a single bound, knock these demons and monsters unconscious. Now, Hempstead. I grew up in a decent town where I felt peace, at least around the peeps that I like to be around. But here's where I learned how to conquer the impossible. Here's where I became mythological. By making the illogical logical, because love conquers all, regardless of the obstacles. So, no one eats, and no one gets to sleep in peace if y'all don't get my hip hop back to me in one piece, because me and my team will creep up on the scene and release a previously unreleased piece at least once each week just to test your skill. And yes, we will always be fresh to death for this next drill with extra special sex appeal, with extra frills, and still be dressed to kill. Capiche? So, good luck. Peace.
Yeah, phenomenal, man. On that note, check this out. So we need to know, the people got to know where to find you. They got to know where to get your book. They got to know how to follow you. We need to know all that right now, like your social media, your websites, what you got.
Absolutely. I'm easy to find on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Shamello D, and Shamello D is SHAM as in Mary, ELLOD. Shamello D. That's Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, I'm on there as Shamello Durant, SHAMELLO, last name Durant, DURANT. You can instant message me on any of those platforms if you want an autographed copy of the book. Also, I have an Etsy shop where you can get interesting designs like this and many more in my Etsy shop, etsy.com/shops/ghetto, the number 2, greater store. The name of my store is Ghetto, the number 2, greater store, Ghetto to Greater Store. And that's where you can find a lot of interesting, one-of-a-kind, exclusive, vintage and hip-hop inspired, culturally wise Black products that people don't necessarily have in their normal repertoire. And always available is an autographed copy, a personally autographed copy from ghetto to greater. And you know, I always appreciate the traffic and appreciate people just coming through just to say hey. So there's no obligation to purchase anything from me. I just want you to be able to hear and appreciate what we are doing, and to know that we are not just doing it for us, we're doing it for this next generation.
Yeah, yeah. Mello, well, let me express my appreciation, man, for you coming on the show. This was an exciting interview, man, you know, and I'm still, you know, looking at them plaques glistening on the wall. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people who can't get there. They don't get a chance to earn those, man. So
it is a blessing, and I'm quite thankful. I'm quite thankful.
Yeah, congrats for all the success, man. I mean, you know, and you know, when I look at you and I hear your energy, I see your energy. You got like another, at minimum, another 30 years in you, bro. So
I'm with you. Let's do it. Let's
do it. Yeah, yeah. Appreciate you coming by, man.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. You know,
absolutely. And you know, don't be surprised if we reach back out and bring you back. You know, because
absolutely, and I want to say peace to Ja Vega, who helped to connect the dots for me to be acquainted and get a chance to meet such a stellar person like yourself, sir.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Ja Vega's my man. Appreciate it, man. You've been listening to us Happening Wednesdays on Whatever You Want Music Radio. This is my man, Shan. We call him Shamello Durant. Yeah, like the name. All right, we appreciate you being here. This is Mos. I'm out.
Peace.